Welcome to Zoe Crossdressing. The mirror lied to me. I woke up completely transformed. The alarm exploded into the room, dragging Marcus violently out of a half-formed dream. Somewhere beneath a heap of twisted blankets on the couch, he groaned. After a few seconds of fumbling, his arm slid free and slapped the clock into silence. He lay there blinking, eyes struggling to make sense of the ceiling above him. Something wasn't right. A strange prickling sensation crawled across his scalp, and a deep soreness pulsed through his lower back, no doubt the price of another night sacrificed to the sagging couch instead of his bed. With effort, Marcus pushed himself upright. His muscles protested immediately, stiff and unforgiving. The room tilted briefly before steadying, the familiar clutter coming back into focus, scattered books, forgotten laundry, the same lived-in chaos as always. Everything looked normal, and yet the feeling of unease refused to leave. He shook his head and shuffled toward the bathroom. The mirror offered an unkind reflection, tired eyes rimmed in red, dark shadows beneath them, and a rough layer of stubble coating his jaw. He splashed cold water onto his face, gripping the sink as if grounding himself, hoping it would wash away the lingering strangeness. Shower. Shave. Teeth. By the time he buttoned his usual slacks and shirt, the odd sensations had dulled. Almost normal, he decided. Just a rough morning. Keys and wallet in hand, Marcus stepped outside. The cool air hit him instantly, sharp and refreshing, clearing the last remnants of sleep as he walked towards St. Michael's Church. The stone structure rose ahead of him, sunlight catching the stained glass and scattering color across the pavement. As always, a calm settled over him the closer he came. Slipping in through the side entrance, Marcus moved quietly through the corridors, his footsteps echoing faintly. When he reached the sanctuary, that sense of belonging deepened, solid and reassuring. He stopped before the carved wooden altar and closed his eyes. The scent of incense and melted candle wax filled his lungs. Warmth bloomed in his chest, spreading outward until his fingers tingled. For a fleeting moment, it felt as though energy hummed through every inch of him. When he opened his eyes, the sensation softened but didn't vanish entirely. A subtle vibration lingered beneath his skin as he began his duties, lighting candles, straightening hymnals, dusting the pews. The rhythm of the work was soothing. As the day wore on, parishioners drifted in for meetings and quiet prayer. Marcus greeted each with a gentle smile, exchanging polite words. If anyone noticed a change in him, they gave no sign. By early afternoon, his stomach growled insistently. He realized he'd skipped breakfast. Taking his break, he wandered into the small kitchen off the parish hall and opened the refrigerator. The contents were bleak, limp greens, stale bread, a container of unidentifiable leftovers. None of it tempted him. His stomach growled again, louder this time, sharper. This hunger felt different. More demanding. Marcus frowned, unsettled once more. Marcus shut the refrigerator door and reached for his phone instead. Whatever this odd, gnawing hunger was, a pizza should deal with it. At least, that's what he told himself. Half an hour later, he was already working on his second slice when Father Thomas ambled into the parish kitchen. The older priest's bushy eyebrows climbed as he took in the nearly empty box. "Well now," he said with a warm chuckle, "that's quite an appetite you've got today, Marcus." Marcus stopped mid-bite, suddenly aware of how fast he'd been eating. "Guess I didn't realize how hungry I was," he replied, words muffled by melted cheese. Father Thomas waved it off. "Nothing wrong with a healthy appetite. Though at your age, I suppose you're done growing up." He patted his own rounded stomach with a grin. "Maybe growing out instead." Marcus managed a polite smile, but embarrassment burned beneath it. 25 wasn't exactly a growing boy, and he'd never been one to overeat. This wasn't normal for him. Not at all. Brushing crumbs from his shirt, he muttered an excuse and slipped into the bathroom. He leaned closer to the mirror, studying his reflection as if it might betray some obvious change. Same brown eyes. Same straight nose. Same sharp jawline. Though his face did seem a touch fuller. He turned his head, inspecting himself from different angles before scoffing quietly. He was imagining it. One big lunch didn't mean anything. Splashing cold water onto his face, Marcus forced himself to calm down and return to his duties. The rest of the afternoon passed quietly. As evening neared, Marcus began his usual routine, locking doors, dimming lights, ensuring the church was ready for the next day. When the building finally fell silent, that familiar sense of calm settled over him again, deeper than before. Without consciously deciding to, he found himself walking toward the altar. He knelt on the worn carpet runner, hands clasped, head bowed. No prayer formed on his lips, yet the silence felt complete. Warmth enveloped him, steady and comforting, as though he truly belonged there. How long he remained kneeling, he couldn't say. A sharp growl from his stomach finally broke the trance. Marcus blinked and looked up, startled to find the sanctuary cloaked in darkness. Night had fallen. He rose stiffly, joints aching, and shook his head at his own carelessness before finishing up and heading home. The walk back to his apartment felt unusually taxing. By the time he reached his door, he was breathing harder than he should have been. His clothes clung uncomfortably, restricting his movements. Inside, he stripped off his shirt immediately, grateful for the cool air. As he passed the hallway mirror, Marcus stopped short. Dark stubble shadowed his jaw and cheeks, far heavier than it had been that morning. And his chest, he stepped closer. It looked fuller, subtly rounded where it had always been flat. He pressed a hand against it, brow furrowing. Before he could examine further, hunger stabbed at him again. In the kitchen, he rummaged through cabinets. Nothing appealed. Eventually he opened a can of tuna and ate it straight from the tin. Then another. Then a third. Still the hunger raged. He tore through the pantry next, stale crackers, pickles, questionable lunch meat, consuming everything with frantic focus. Only when the last scrap was gone did the craving finally ease. The relief was short-lived. Marcus sagged against the counter, stomach bloated and aching. He barely made it to the bathroom before vomiting violently, wave after wave leaving him shaking and hollow. When it finally stopped, he collapsed onto the cold tile, drenched in sweat, muscles twitching uncontrollably. At some point, he lost consciousness. Morning light filtering through the small bathroom window woke him. Marcus groaned softly and pushed himself upright, head pounding, mouth tasting of bile and ash. Using the sink to steady himself, he struggled to his feet. The face in the mirror made him freeze. His eyes were rimmed with angry red, dark circles carved deep beneath them. His skin looked pale, almost waxy. And his hair, Marcus lifted a trembling hand, running his fingers through it. It was longer. Shaggy. Far too long. He could have sworn he'd had it trimmed just weeks ago. Deciding he desperately needed a shower, Marcus stripped off his sweat-soaked clothes. As he reached for the water, his reflection caught his attention again, this time his bare chest. His breath caught. The subtle fullness from the night before had unmistakably increased. His chest looked softer, rounder, no longer purely muscle. He shook his head hard, heart racing. "I'm sick," he muttered. "That's all." Hot water poured over him, easing some of the aches, but when he reached for the shampoo, his fingers snagged in hair that was undeniably too long. He pulled a lock forward, examining it closely. Not only longer, silkier. Finer. And threaded through the brown, was that red? A chill crept down his spine. He finished showering as quickly as he could and wrapped a towel around his waist, wiping steam from the mirror. The reflection staring back at him felt unfamiliar. His face looked softer, the sharp lines blurred, cheekbones rounder. Heart pounding, Marcus touched his chin. The stubble from the day before was gone, his skin smooth beneath his fingertips. And whatever was happening to him, it clearly wasn't over. His skin was impossibly smooth beneath his fingers. Even his nose looked wrong, smaller, finer, almost delicate. Marcus stared at his reflection in disbelief. This wasn't possible. It had to be a hallucination. A fever dream. Anything but reality. He pinched his arm hard. Pain flared sharp and immediate. Marcus hissed and released his grip, heart pounding. He was awake. Panic surged up his chest, tightening his throat until breathing felt difficult. He staggered out of the bathroom, bare feet slipping on tile. He needed help. Someone who could make sense of this, someone who wouldn't think he'd lost his mind. His phone sat on the kitchen counter where he'd abandoned it the night before. Marcus grabbed it, hands trembling as he scrolled through his contacts. Who do you call when your body is turning into something you don't recognize? Emma. The phone rang. Once. Twice. 3 times. Marcus? Emma's voice was thick with sleep. Do you know what time it is? He whispered. The sound startled him, too light, too high. I need you. Please. That did it. Okay, she said instantly, fully awake now. What's wrong? Are you hurt? I don't know, Marcus laughed, the sound breaking into something almost hysterical. Something's happening to me. I look different. My body, it's changing. Silence stretched across the line. When Emma spoke again, her voice was careful. Grounded. All right. I want you to stay where you are. I'm coming over. Don't panic. Just wait for me. Hurry, Marcus breathed. The next 20 minutes crawled by. Marcus paced his apartment, stopping every few steps to check his reflection in mirrors, windows, even the dark screen of the television. The changes refused to stop. His hair spilled to his shoulders in loose waves. The towel around his waist strained against a body that was undeniably reshaping itself, fuller chest, wider hips, a waist that curved inward. A knock at the door made him flinch. Marcus, it's me, Emma called. Open up. He hesitated, clutching the towel tighter. What if she didn't recognize him? What if she recoiled? Another knock, firmer this time. Whatever's happening, we'll deal with it together. Drawing a shaky breath, Marcus unlocked the door. Emma rushed in, worry etched across her face, then stopped dead. Her eyes widened. Oh my God, she whispered. Marcus nodded, unable to look at her. I don't know what's happening. She approached slowly, as if afraid he might shatter. Gently, she lifted his chin, studying his face. When did this start? Yesterday morning, Marcus said. But this all happened overnight. Emma's gaze moved over him, taking in the softened jaw, the fuller lips, the unmistakable curves beneath the towel. Her brow furrowed. Any new medications? Supplements? Anything? She asked. No, Marcus said quickly. I've barely gone anywhere. Just home and the church. Emma exhaled, thinking. Okay. First step, we get you to a hospital. This kind of change doesn't just happen. Relief hit him so hard his knees nearly buckled. Thank you, he whispered. That's my job, she said softly. Now let's get you dressed. They managed to find old sweatpants with a drawstring and a loose t-shirt that barely fit his altered frame. Emma handed him one of her sports bras, turning away while he struggled with it in shaking hands. The drive to the hospital passed in silence. Marcus hugged himself, staring out the window while Emma glanced over at him again and again, concern written across her face. Under the harsh fluorescent lights of the emergency room, the changes were impossible to ignore. The triage nurse blinked twice, eyes darting from Marcus to the driver's license Emma handed over. I'm going to need another form of ID, the nurse said slowly. My brother needs help, Emma cut in firmly. His appearance has changed drastically in the last 24 hours. The nurse hesitated, then nodded. Have a seat. A doctor will be with you shortly. 3 hours later, after blood draws, scans, and whispered conversations, Marcus sat on an exam table, feet dangling slightly above the floor. Emma stood close, one hand never leaving his shoulder. An older doctor finally stepped forward. His name tag read Dr. Patel. "Mr. Henderson," he began, then paused. "How would you prefer I address you?" "Marcus," he said quietly. Dr. Patel nodded. "Marcus. I'll be honest, we've never encountered a case like this." He took a breath. "Your hormone levels, chromosomes, even skeletal markers are shifting. It's as though your body is rewriting itself." Emma's grip tightened. "What's causing it?" she asked. "Is it a disease?" "We've ruled out anything known," Dr. Patel replied. "The changes don't appear immediately dangerous, but they are continuing." Tears burned Marcus's eyes. "So what happens now?" "For now," the doctor said gently, "we admit you for observation. We'll monitor the progression and consult specialists. We'll do everything we can." It wasn't an answer, but it was something. Marcus nodded, exhausted. The next few days would change everything. The days that followed blurred together into a relentless cycle of scans, blood work, and examinations. Doctors and researchers rotated through Marcus's room in an endless procession, murmuring to one another in dense medical language that might as well have been another language entirely. He became a curiosity, studied, measured, discussed. Through it all, Emma never left his side. She handled the worried calls from their parents, smoothed things over with the church when Marcus couldn't bring himself to explain, and challenged the staff whenever their curiosity crossed into cold detachment. She fought for his dignity even when answers were nowhere to be found. And answers never came. No matter what they tried, the changes continued. Each morning brought something new: a skin growing softer, curves becoming unmistakable, facial lines refining into something gentler and undeniably feminine. By the end of the first week, there was no room left for denial. Marcus was becoming a woman. Emma was the one who finally spoke the truth aloud. "You know," she said one afternoon, holding up a small mirror and studying his reflection, "you're actually kind of adorable." Marcus let out a broken sound, half laugh, half sob. "That's not helping." She immediately squeezed his hand. "I know. I'm sorry. None of this feels real." Surreal didn't begin to cover it. Marcus still struggled to connect the person staring back from the mirror with who he believed himself to be. The soft curves, the fall of reddish-brown hair, the delicate features, they felt like someone else entirely. And yet, as days passed, the shock dulled. The pain eased. His movements became less stiff, less foreign, as if his body were slowly teaching him how to exist this way. 2 weeks after his admission, Dr. Patel asked Marcus and Emma to meet with him privately. The doctor's expression said everything before he even spoke. "We've reached the limits of what we can do," Dr. Patel said carefully. "The changes have stopped progressing, but we haven't been able to reverse them. Biologically speaking, your body has fully transitioned." Marcus closed his eyes. He'd known. Still, hearing it confirmed felt like having the ground pulled out from under him. "So, what now?" Emma asked. Dr. Patel folded his hands. "That part is up to Marcus. You're healthy. There's no medical reason to keep you hospitalized. We can offer counseling, support services, and guidance, whatever you need moving forward." Marcus swallowed. "Can I have some time?" "Of course," the doctor said gently. "There's no rush." After he left, silence filled the room. Marcus stared at the floor, trying to grasp the weight of what had happened. In just a few weeks, everything he thought defined his life had shifted beyond recognition. He didn't know who he was anymore. He didn't know who he was supposed to become. And for the first time, there was no clear path forward, only the certainty that nothing would ever be the same again. Thanks for watching.